Chinese women, we always at work on ourselves. That's how our society taught us, you need to work on yourself. So you didn't ask if the environment change for you, you change for the environment. That's our teaching method for Chinese women. So you have to change. You have to work on yourself. The problem is you, right? But from another point of view, yeah, sometimes problem is me, but so what?
Hi, I'm Zach Newmark, and this is Damn Yankee. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts for all the best interviews with the coolest performers based here in the Netherlands and those traveling through the country. Except not this time, because joining us by webcam in a quick and dirty setup, it's Chinese comedian He Huang. She was actually supposed to be sitting here right next to me and unfortunately had to cancel her shows in Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The comedian came to fame in Australia, where she's been living for the last 5 years, with an audition set for Australia's Got Talent that landed a standing ovation and generated something like 60 million views on YouTube, but also triggered an unusual amount of backlash. She is traveling through the UK right now, doing a number of sets there, and was supposed to bring her shows here to the Netherlands and a few other places in Europe, and unfortunately wasn't able to make that happen at the last minute. I know we're bummed about it. She's definitely bummed about it. He Huang, regardless, thank you so much for joining us today. Where are you talking to us from?
I am stuck in London.
Yeah, and you were supposed to be here for a set at Boom Chicago and another set at Club Haug in Rotterdam. It's unfortunate you can't be here this time, but what ended up happening?
It was so funny because at those two clubs, that was actually the most exciting part for my this tour because they sold most tickets without any promotion, and I was so surprised. I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know I have influence in Amsterdam or Netherlands comedy scene." I was so curious and intrigued by it. But I think it's just because me as a Chinese passport holder, there's so much paperwork to do to perform or to travel. And then because I was working with this company for the first time, so it's a lot of missteps leading to what happened now. I think no one's to blame. We all tried our best, but it's just really hard to figure out and to navigate. And it's hard. It's my first time. It would be my first time if I had to make it succeed performing in Europe. So next time, as the first time, would be better. I think we know now I know the process. I think we can do better with the paperwork next time. No
Are you
comedy.
thinking about rescheduling or looking into that yet, or is it a little bit too early at this point?
I think we already canceled the show, so that's final. And it's just because I have work schedule ahead this year, and then first half of next year. So I don't think it's happening soon. Maybe later next year. So we will see. Yeah.
Mhm. I've got to say, I mean, I told you a little bit about this before we started, but I find your background to be like truly fascinating because you do, as we were talking about, you come from, at least by Chinese standards, a very small town. By Dutch standards, it's kind of a mid-sized city. You're from a place that's about 300,000 people. Uh, and I, I want to know sort of how did you make your way from, a life in a somewhat impoverished small town to doing stand-up comedy, not only as a profession, but on TV in Australia and touring around the world at this point.
Yeah. That's the things I didn't know. Um, I didn't plan any of this. It's I don't think everybody can explain to their life, like how they life plan it out. And then most time I heard about people things like, oh, I didn't envision or imagine my life would be like this. I think that will apply to me as well. So I grew up in a very just, I think like my parents are the first generation who come to town to work. So here, their parents are farmers or in, uh, what's the, what's the name of the vice president of America now? JD Vance.
Right now, JD Vance.
Yeah, in his words, my grandparents are peasants. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, so my parents are the first generation came to town to work. And so my group of friends, we grew up in the 80s, 90s. And it's just that kind of an era where we have reasonable education and the internet is not super censored. There is certain amount of free speech. And also you grow up with certain values from your family tradition or Chinese Confucius tradition. So I think I grew up in that kind of environment. And then I just follow whatever other peers follow, high school, uni, and
Mm-hmm.
because one thing needs another. And here, it's that kind of things I never expected, but I made a peace with it because not none of my friends are like this. Yeah, so they're very normal. So I always like feel like why am I not normal? Yeah, they're
And
fighters,
also, I
but they are
mean,
normal.
stand up comedy and comedy in general as an art form is not, perceived the same way in China as it is in other countries, specifically in the Western world.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
what was kind of the reaction, as you started making your way in life as a comedian, from your close circle?
It is very funny because we have that kind of performance when I grew up. It's stand up. We don't call it stand up. We call like chit chat kind of, you know, we talk about. I have tapes of a local comedian. I loved him, but I didn't even know that's called stand up in the US. And it's just something I found I'm naturally drawn to when I was a kid. And he was very famous in my age. But you're right. Like so, sometimes when I do comedy sets, and people will ask me afterwards, it's like, dude, can you tell me, do Chinese people really understand humor? So and I'm like, yeah, that's very funny question, but it's also that's how people think of Chinese nowadays. I was just very stoic and then very serious and hardworking, sometimes cheap labor, and don't know how to laugh. But it is exists in China, the humor side, because I think especially for working class people, right? Like if your life is so poor and so impoverished and you need humor, at least like
Mm-hmm.
bantering and then self-deprecating humor to survive harsh environment. I mean, whenever I go to family gatherings, there's a lot of humor, especially in the countryside when they're drunk. Wow, can't believe some of the jokes they had. It's so funny. Um,
Uh,
but
is your
when I
family funny?
man, they are unintentionally funny, but they don't know. They don't think they call it as a fact. Yeah, but yeah, I don't think they plan to be funny. They just say something outrageous, and I'm like, that sounds so funny. And I didn't think that way, but now I think like everything. Sometimes they say just so funny when you jump out of the box. It's like a sitcom itself. But when I first started comedy about 9 years ago, they just think it's my hobby because I had a numerous hobby growing up, and none of the hobby lasts for a long time. So my friends and family, they all just think it's a hobby, it's a phase. So yeah, so that's pretty much it until I decided to go to Australia to try to see if I can make it as a full time. But at that point, I've done so many crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My friends and family, they're like, "Oh, it's just gonna be a phase. She'll be back to her normal sense." And yeah, and that happened. I just make it as a full time. So they're like, "Oh, actually, now it's your job now." My mom is so funny because like I feel tired touring all the time. So like actually I don't really wanted to do comedy. I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I can do something else. My mom who touring with me to Singapore and Vietnam this time. After she say how popular I am at the small comedy sets, and she's like, oh, you can't quit. People want you to do comedy. You have to do it. I'm like, wow. It's so funny. Yeah.
I mean,
So that's my
that's
experience.
incredibly sweet because I imagine that this wasn't how it always was. You went to university in Beijing. You did a master's degree at Georgetown in public policy analysis. You said, um, and how is it that you kind of started doing comedy in the first place?
Oh yeah, because I found a job when I graduated from Georgetown, and I feel like life is so boring after I got job, so I was, I need a hobby. So I was actually went to so many free programs in the local libraries. Comedy is one of the programs. It was really random. Yeah, because like my when
Was
I
that a
did that,
library in Washington or
yeah.
somewhere else?
In no, not in Washington because you know how people work and study in Washington, but they live in Virginia or Maryland. That's one of the local library in
Sure.
Arlington, Virginia. Yeah, so that was really fun.
As the place where everybody learns comedy, the libraries of Virginia.
Yeah, because my coworker told me he's just like, he's African American, and I think they're so funny. But he said to me, "Jose, you're so funny. You should just stand up." So that sentence leave a strong impression to me because my first hobby I chose, I wanted to be a DJ, and so I didn't really think stand up. But they don't have free program for DJ. They have free program for stand up. It's like, why not? So I signed up. Yeah.
What do you remember about that first time that you went on stage? What was that for you?
Oh, I have recording because my friends came, so they recorded. It was really interesting. Uh, I think my instructor back then, he's also the library manager. Because I went there, because we had like a 7 weeks or 6 weeks. Every Wednesday we gather there together, have a workshop and have a chat. He never thought I would be so serious about comedy because you know how exactly his first impression about me is as a serious Chinese lady who sits there taking notes in the first row and raise her hands all the time, asking very technical questions about how everything goes works. Because I didn't understand it, and it was very difficult for me to process it. It's in my second language as well, so I ask a lot of serious questions and taking notes. Because he does have a PowerPoint, every slide, and you know, he explain what is a punchline, what is setup, what's the premise. So it's like, what is this, and what do you mean? They're asking for like suggestion comedians to watch, because I didn't know any comedian other than Russell Peters. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't know
Hmm.
comedy or stand-up can go into different ways. So I was very intrigued by it. Yeah, but when I did my first set about some, you know, language anecdote happened to me when I was exchange student there, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're so funny." But now I listen back to the script, I was like, "Oh, it's not really funny," but I think they're just very encouraging, and then I think I, you know, I don't know, I still don't think it's funny, but people think it's funny back then. I think that encouraged me a lot to keep going. So I started doing the local open mics, and that's where I got
Hmm.
started. Yeah.
Um, what took you sort of, to a point where you decided, you know what, public policy is not what I want to be doing. It's actually comedy is what I want to be doing for my career. What brought it from that point of being sort of like a hobby you were playing around with to something that was more serious?
You know, I think it's and I've looked back all the decision I made in terms of like career development. I think it's just idealistic. I think I'm a really idealistic person. And also I just feel like the Chinese students were just being oppressed the whole life. You know, like you work, you study before 20 and you work after 20. There's no sense of self and freedom. So I think when I first so in love with stand-up. It's like I can say whatever I want, and it's very empowerment, and people
Mm,
accepting that. That kind of gave me a self-value. But I didn't give up my first passion because I did want to work in the public service sector. Um, so I tried a lot of, angles to work in the sector, but I just couldn't, you know, make peace with the fact that it is so much politics. I mean, you can't blame it. It's called political sector, right? So you just need to,
mhm.
you have seen so many like policy, and you started like this, ended up like this, and you just a waste of money and people's time and energy, and a lot of self-absorbed people become a policymaker. And I'm like, how did you make this policy without even knowing what are you doing actually on the ground? So I feel really frustrated about it. So after I realized that
It's
everywhere I go
interesting
is the
because
same.
it's interesting because you're, you know, uh, I wouldn't call your comedy political specifically. I think
Hmm.
and
No, it's not.
your comedy tends to be very much about culture and culture
Dating.
clashes or cultural shock, but also about gender and issues related to gender as well, and your personal issues as a single woman also. And so I wouldn't call your comedy political, but looking down at some of the comedians that you've identified as being influential for you, um, you know, Stephen Colbert, and his put was kind of someone you identified as your entry into political satire.
Hmm.
Doug Stanhope, who absolutely is hilarious, as you've identified. And I've seen you reference material of his, including his bit about nationalism as well. Um, Russell Peters also has a lot of jokes about culture and politics. And you personally, you have your own, your whole study and your background in politics. Why did you go towards jokes that are more cultural and less towards jokes that are maybe more political?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I do. I think it's like every comedian has their own journey to figure out. I do feel like as I get older, I'm more leaning towards social commentary. But as a comedian, I do need to be practical because I think those kind of divisive topics, you need stage time to make it palatable for your audience. I don't want it to, you know, for the shock value to do it. I need to understand, and it's really hard to make political jokes work because it's really divisive and also it's really I don't know how to say it, like hard to understand. So you need to be make it easy for people to understand. So I don't think, and I do feel like I am very lazy in terms of like somewhat focused. Like when I was learning second foreign language, which is mandatory for English, my major was English in uni. So in China, if you study English as your first foreign language or as a major, you need to learn second foreign language. So I was learning French, but all my focus was taken by English. I couldn't spend any time on French. It's just for me, mental capacity is not there. It's the same with me. Like if I wanted to make a cultural jokes or dating jokes works, I need to focus on it. I wanted to make sure the joke is like down, but then when I spend so much energy in them, I don't have energy to develop other topics as I want to. It's like it's in a lot of the topics I thought about, but it's not there. Like I tried it sometimes open mics, but it's in my joke book, but it's not ready to see, to be seen or to
Mm.
be, um, on the stage or anything. But I think that's also one of my passion about. I got introduced by those comedians, and I still really, really admire their work. But just I don't think I have that kind of capacity to deal with different topics right now. And I'm very
Mm.
frustrated about my dating and also the gender politics and also cultural difference. And I think to make this joke evergreen, I just need to spend a lot of time on it.
Um, is that also something that's kind of difficult? Is workshopping some of this material to a point where you can, refine it and present it in the context of a show?
Yes, I think next year my solo show will be like, you know, that. But I think it is that kind of stage time. Also, for me, I keep repeating one joke. It's just to see how audience react to the joke, so I can understand the psychology of the audience. So I can say, okay, so this is what how you perceive it, and then how I perceive it, and then how I can work on apply to other jokes. That's how I work and that's the way I work. Because I'm coming from different culture, right? So the ability to observe how other culture audience perceive one joke, you need time and then just keep repeating it. So I think that as I do it more, I will be more, you know, quick on writing the jokes fit into my style. Yeah, I'm like only 8 years into comedy, so I'm not really in the rush to, tackle some serious topics and then just try to divide my audience into two halves.
But also, I mean, you really developed as a comedian in the 5 years that you've been living in Australia. I mean, it
Hmm.
was an Australian show was really where you basically got your first real break.
Hmm.
Um, you know, you've been working as a comedian always in a different country and in a different culture.
Hmm. Yes, I love it. I love different cultures, and it's yeah. People ask me why Australia. I was like, it's easy to get a visa. That's it. That's so funny. I'm like, what? It's like, oh, did you know anything about Australia? No, I don't know. I didn't know. Now I know a lot because I think I've been touring like a lot of places in Australia. I think I've been to mo a lot of the towns and cities in Australia than most Australians. So I know a quite amount of Australian culture now. But that's also one of the beauty of stand-up. I think when I watch stand-up, I feel like it's really make you close to the locals, and it's very good. I like the connection itself.
After 5 years in Australia, are you thinking about becoming a citizen, or are you thinking, do you have your eyes set on other countries to live in?
I'm debating maybe because Australia is such a comfortable country, beautiful beach, sunshine, good house, good welfare. It doesn't really produce the most advanced comedy because when you're happy, you don't need comedy. So, and I was like, okay, and I do want to be a better comedian. So I'm looking for some miserable country to move into and to produce. I know also like freedom of speech has to be guaranteed. I can't,
Mm.
um, you know, you know, move to a country where like I feel limited. So that's definitely one of my
Hmm.
concerns. My mom says I'm so picky. She's like, you want this, you want that, you want everything. I'm like, no, that's the point of, I'm not 60, I'm not looking forward to retirement soon. So still have a couple years to explore. So I do want to advance myself as a better comic. So let's see which
Hmm.
other miserable places I can move to produce some comedy to
Where are
release
you
the
thinking about?
pain. Maybe UK.
Maybe the UK.
Yeah, it seems like it's very hectic here. And also they love comedy. The
Hmm.
UK or US has the best comedians in the world. I think for English speaking countries. Yeah.
Mm.
They do have the environment for it. People love comedy and then they're just miserable. They need it.
Are you doing extra sets in London or in the UK while you're there to make up for the shows you had to cancel in Europe?
Oh, I'm just doing regular gigs at the comedy clubs, not like the solo shows. Yeah.
Hmm. Like like drop-ins and things like that.
Just yes, that's here. Like that's normal for a comedian to do that. Just like do some comedy sets at comedy clubs or open mics to keep working on yourself.
Hmm. You had mentioned the importance of freedom of speech with any country that you live in. So I want to read a post that you put up on Instagram just about a week ago or so, where you said, "Growing up, I never had the concept of freedom of speech. It wasn't until my 20s that I began to understand and experience it. That's when I slowly realized just how many lies I've been told and how many voices had been or are still being silenced. Since I started stand up, I think about this a lot. If you use violence or coercion to silence someone, how are you any different from Big Brother?" And then in the post itself, you went on to say, uh, because on that it's way easier to just not laugh at someone's remarks, or not go along with something that somebody's saying. It's way easier than violence or intimidation, because honestly, if you're trying to silence people by force, congrats, you're basically Big Brother just with a tote bag that says "Be kind."
Yes, yes, that's how I feel about certain. I think nowadays people just don't have the tolerance of different voices. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and especially in China too, and in the US recently. It's just like so many people rat out. I think the spirit of being a rat come back, of being a snitch.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, if you don't like someone, you can argue with them, you can debate with them, or you can't just, use violence and soft coercion or hard coercion to do it. And that's something I'm super against because I think it's a coward if you do that. And I hate that a lot. Yeah. And then I didn't know that. I think I start to understand what it is. Like when I was in debate team in uni, that's where I first start to understand debate, understand. And it was so funny because back then in my uni, I like it back then. Sounds so old people saying. Uh, it was 2008 to 12, and we had it was in Beijing, it was very popular. I think in China in general. It was such a great 4 years I had in the uni because I joined the debate team, English debating, and then it's like a British parliamentary. First year actually is American parliamentary debate, and the second and they switched to British parliamentary. And I started to understand, oh, actually, if you wanted to make a policy, there's always two sides, and I never thought about, in China you always have only one voice is allowed, and
Mm-hmm.
only one type of textbooks allowed in this public school, also private school. So I was very eye-opening to see, okay, everything has two sides. Is that I was never, shown the other sides of this policy. So I was like, it's very eye-opening for me to experience that. And since then, I had like more, I started to have, question everything. That's where I have lots of fights with my family. Now, when your family start calling, you're so selfish. American poison you. Like what? Having boundaries for selfish. Like love myself is for selfish. I'm like, yes, I am
Mm.
selfish. Um, and then that's kind of where I had a lot of self the you know exploration and self development and all. That's where all my jokes are trying to develop on top of that because that's where you started with that kind of cultural clash. And then you don't know, and then when politics is part of the culture, and then you don't know, is it political or is it cultural? I think in China, everything is political at the
Mm.
same time culture. It's so funny because like I was chatting with my friends I'm staying with, because like we're schoolmates, and I was telling her also, people say Chinese people are not political, but you know what? When I was traveling with my mom in Vietnam recently, we ran into two people from Taiwan, and those two people, Taiwanese men, was like, just leave us alone, right? In my head, I was like, don't engage with us. You know, it's gonna have really bad and embarrassing conversation. My mom's like, oh, and then they're very like excited to see us. He says, oh, you're so hot. I'm like, okay, this is the tour bus, right? It's like hop on, hop off tour bus. And then they come off so strong and uncles from Taiwan. And my mom's second sentence threw at them is like, do you think Taiwan is part of China? I'm like, Mom. shut up. This is we just met these two guys on a hop on hop off tour, and she started asking political questions to them. I was like, who says Chinese people are not political? They can't even. I was like, Mom, just worry about if you can get your salary on time next month. Stop asking these questions to strangers. That's how. That's how. Like it's cultural, but at the same time political at the same time. You know what I mean?
For sure. Is that something that you started to become more aware of when you were at university in Beijing or in Georgetown or even after your time at university?
I think it's slowly inside the university. It's a it's a slowly process. I think it took me 10 years to like reconstruct my values again. You have to, because everything you thought you believed was destroyed, and then you have to rebuild them one by one.
Hmm. Would it even be on your radar to one day move back to China, or is that at this stage something that's very distant from your imagination?
I'm not sure because I'm the only kid. That's the only thing. Because my parents are aging, so that's the one thing I'm
Hmm.
worried about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's for all, I think for any immigrant or expatriate, who travels halfway around the world, that becomes a concern at one point or another.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
hmm
Um,
That's the only thing.
it's also interesting to consider your comedy and how it's perceived in China because when you started with that first set of yours that went viral on Australia's Got Talent, which
hmm
I remember seeing David Walliams as one of your judges cracking up, and you had a standing ovation for that set, if memory serves. Um, it wasn't long before you started getting quite a bit of backlash for it from people who are based in China.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until my friends messaged me. Just like he was like, "Oh, did you see are you okay?" No, his first message on WeChat, "Are you okay?" I was like, because I just broke up with my ex, so I was like, "Oh, how did he know?" And I was like, "What happened?" He was like, "Oh, it's fine," and he just said, "Don't go on TikTok." Chinese one. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so that doesn't help. So I actually went on TikTok. So I saw like so many. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know my videos being watched so many times because I've done those jokes multiple times. I didn't have my presence, and then I was just struggling to make a living as a comedian because I was working part time as well. It's a lot of work. So I was actually about to
Hmm.
give up on comedy pursuit in Australia because it's like, okay, I'm gonna go home, spend time traveling around and go back to China and be a normal, boring person, as my parents wished. And then yeah, and I started to look at all these like comments, but then I just read a few of them. I just feel like, oh my God, it's so like nasty and personal. I didn't read a lot of them. So I was like, oh shit, this is actually happening. And then yeah, it was like overwhelming amount of attention come to me with a short amount of time. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, I think it also kind of highlights the difference between maybe what some people consider to be cancel culture and what may actually be cancel culture.
Yeah.
Because the harassment that you received, which you've said other, women who are in stand up said it's kind of par for the course for them as well.
Yeah.
Um, but there's kind of the actual forced cancellation, and then there's the sort of bullying to just try to get you to quit.
Yeah. I don't know what they're trying to do actually. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand what's the intention. I think they just wanted to attack me for the sake of attacking me, because those attacks are
Mm.
personal about my body shape, my weight, my family, and my everything. So like basically, there's no actual content about what they're trying to dirty or just curse me, just using nasty curse words. Yeah. basically that. I don't know what they were trying to do, honestly.
Mm.
They're probably
Has
working in the
that changed?
prison.
I'm sorry, say that again.
They're probably someone working in the prison. They used to have to make all those Apple products and then clothes
Mm.
and Christmas cards. Now part of them are hired to work on the internet to attack people who are dissident from Chinese government. And then people tell me, don't worry, they're in the cell. Don't worry, you're free. Yeah, Chinese people are really good at dark humor. All my friends are so funny. Yeah. Yeah.
um, uh, you know, it's. I'm also wondering because as your stand-ups developed, that stand-up set for Australia's Got Talent that was 3 years ago,
Yeah,
4 years
3 years
ago.
ago. I think almost
Yeah.
4 years ago, 2021, right? I
And
think.
your comedy has developed quite a bit since then. Have the attacks on you died down?
Yeah, internet is just a fade. Um, I think what I learned from other comedians is like just keep doing what you are. When you have stronger presence and stronger fan base, they will just leave you alone and finding another target to attack.
Mm.
And also, literally, there's nothing they have dirt on me, for to attack. So their attacks are very empty. There's nothing else to do. Because I don't have any bad background or anything, any dirt they can, scoop up and then keep attacking me. So it's really
Hmm.
hard for them to continue their attacks. And also, I got my fan base, and then I don't think I'm for the, viral. It was never my intention to be viral or the fame. So, I just keep working on my comedy skills, and then all my respect and opportunity are coming from those industry people. So it's not from influence like or viral status. It's more from like continuing working on it and people see it. So they gave me opportunities and that's where my income is. Yeah. And also fan base from that virus video and also my continue working in certain locations. So you build up the
Hmm.
fan base. It's not necessarily relying on that to make my career sustainable. Yeah.
And one of the things that you said that kind of struck me was that they don't have any dirt on you.
Yeah.
It you talk about a lot of really personal things on stage. I'm sure some of it is let's say exaggerated for your presence as a stand-up comedian, but
Yeah.
I imagine most of it's based on things that happen in real life or inspired by things that happen in real life. Is that kind of one way that you as a performer you're able to protect yourself is by just being kind of an open book on stage and just here's me, here's what I am. I don't really
hmm
have anything to hide.
I think it is. And also it's that kind of things. I don't corrupt. I don't have no corruption background, no bribery. I'm not like a second rich generation buying properties overseas, laundering money for my parents. So I didn't human trafficking. I don't do
Not yet.
not
There's
yet.
still time.
I don't pimping. I don't, sell myself. I mean, selling yourself is fine as long as it's fair and square. And I don't have any illegal activity. Like actually, if you Google me, all the things I've done is possible. It's mostly social work and voluntary work, and I have really good reputation in my industry. So there's actually nothing to really have like. That's my dad says like when you are have a minimum desire, you are invincible, like literally. And I'm not shy to share that with the audience. And some of the, of course, jokes are not true, right? It's exaggeration. It's you hear something from your friends' experience, your observations, not necessarily just from me, but I am open book and I don't really have, because I don't do a lot of stuff illegal. Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
I
Not
must
yet.
I must start a corporation to launder the money right away, please. Send me DM.
Okay, when our interview's over and the camera stops rolling, that'll be our next conversation.
Yeah, even like a gambling app asking me for to help them to promote it. And my family's like, no, don't do it. Like, that kind of things they don't. Because like I think it's because even my family are very conservative and traditional, but they are like honest people. So also I'm confident they can't find anything dirt on my family either. So I'm just like I really feel invincible. So yeah, do whatever he wants. I don't give a fuck. I don't
Yeah.
give a BB.
Oh, you can say whatever you want on this show.
I don't give a flying fuck what they do, right? So that's it. I think that's where I got the power from. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, did it take you a little while to kind of realize that and to incorporate that in your act?
You mean the open book one?
Yeah, this idea that a sort of sense of power and empowerment, as you say, or invincibility. You know, it must have taken a little bit of time to develop that attitude. I imagine you didn't have that in 2021.
Mm, no, I think I think when did I get it? I think it's because I think I when I made a piece about I'm not good at math.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, okay, I am not good at math and I shouldn't fight against it anymore. And I just gave up on the idea of like one thing you expect to do and then you're not good at and you're trying to fight against it. Like, what's the theory? I forgot. The bucket and then the shortest one, the break, will have leaking water, right? Always people pay attention to the shortest one. And I think that's Chinese education focusing on what you're lack of. So when I
Mm.
made a piece about I'm not good at mathematics, and I'm like, oh, I'm good at language. So that's where I got my power. I was like, I'm just gonna focusing on this, and it's so peaceful. I think people from outside China don't understand it because they were never oppressed to, oppression from the society, from your parents, always focusing on what you're not good at. I
Hmm.
forgot about what you actually good at because the society says one thing about you, and then you believe that's all you can do about it. But when you start finding the crack about what they say about you, and you made a peace with, you say, okay, yes, they expect me to be good at mathematics, but I'm not good, and I'm good at language. I give up, and I will just go forward with what I'm good at, and that's where I start feel powerful, and yeah, and then after I fight with my family, and then I think I become more powerful because like I just don't like them. I think it's clear that we're different value system. And I
Hmm.
feel even more powerful after we made amendments within my family, my parents, about, personal values and stuff. And I have a really good relationship with my mom, especially. And I think even now I feel more powerful, you know? Yeah, because in my
Hmm.
joke I said I'm a man now, so they respect me. They're like, yeah, you do whatever you want.
I mean, you've made a lot of jokes on stage also about being single and what you call
I didn't
a
call it
leftover woman. What's
Chinese.
that?
I didn't call it. The Chinese Women Federation Association coined it.
Right.
It's not from
But
me. I
and
just
you
see a
talk a lot
messenger.
about that. You talk about a lot about these aspects of stereotypes about having to be married by a certain age and the pressure that you face. What is your personal life like now?
I'm still single. Oh, it's very frustrating. But I'm gonna update my jokes though. Like, I think this year's a turning point for me because it's my year. It's a year of snake, and then I'm a snake. And yeah,
Okay.
it's Chinese zodiac. So when
Hmm.
you come into a certain age, you actually, somewhat like a biological question, start asking yourself. And then I've done a lot of self soul searching about it. I think I'm raised traditional. So it's like tradition part of me still want to have kids, want to have family. But when I try to make peace with the fact I possibly won't be able to have kids or, you know, and then biology questions, I start to feel powerful and zen because, especially nowadays, it's not really the best environment to raise a kid. And I'm like, oh, okay, so a lot of jokes I'm updating. Like I used to feel frustrated, but now I feel powerful. And then I'm like, yeah, since my family thinks I'm a man, I will be a man, you know? When I'm 40, I'm still dating 18-year-old. And that'll be a powerful. Once you take having kids off the table, it's so good. Like literally you are a man, right? You become older, you have more financial security. Yeah, date younger and then enjoy the life you like everyone deserves to have. So I think jokes being frustrated, yes, it's a lot of frustration there still, but I'm slowly updating my mentality about it, and the jokes will be updated as well. But I'm still single, so that means I have a lot of problems to work on myself. Yes, yes, that's it.
Is that something that you do? Do you work on yourself a lot, or do you
Yeah.
participate in therapy or other ways of better self betterment?
Chinese women, we always at work on ourselves. That's how our society taught us, you know, you need to work on yourself. So you didn't ask if the environment changed for you, you change for the environment. That's our
Mm,
teaching method for Chinese women. So you have
mm,
to change. You have to work on yourself. The problem is you, right? But you know, from another point of view, yeah, sometimes problem is me, but so what? It's also like so what? They never taught us so what, the kind of attitude. But I think a lot of Chinese women, my generation, a younger generation, start to realize, oh yeah, maybe the problem is not me. It's the environment. You know what I mean?
why is it people don't get the opportunity to learn the so what? That what is it? That idea that what does this matter? Let me be who I am.
Because it's authoritarian society. In thousands of years, Chinese society is led by one dynasty after another, right? And the mentality is
Mhm.
that you can't do whatever you want. There is small units as family, village, town level. You all need to be like what is called put in the cookie cutters and then work for
Mhm.
Temu. No, it used to be Alibaba, now it's Temu. So yes, I make money for the rich and powerful.
Right.
Yeah, so that's it. You can't, if everybody do themselves, be themselves, it would be like chaotic in Chinese,
I,
uh, leader's perspective.
I just have such a hard time imagining you at like 16 or 17 and having a different mentality, having a mentality of someone who is just sort of working their way through the system and just kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing. It seems you know it seems very far off from the person that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, but when I'm tired and I have arthritis, I might just give up. I start to feel that impact on me. When you get older, like touring as a comic is getting more and more difficult. And I get, wow, so funny. I think one of the show I did here in the UK, I was tired and I got the news that I couldn't have to cancel the show. Like it's a highly likely I'll have to cancel the EU tour. So I was really upset that day. And one of the reviewers came to my show. He was like, she seems like bored by the audience. I'm like, yes, I was. I hate you guys. And I chatted with my comic friend. He was like, oh, I saw you there multiple times before. And yes, he seems like very upset by the audience. So yeah, sometimes I don't like them. It's like I get away with my likability on the stage.
Mm.
It was like if you were me, you would never get away with that. I was like, yeah, I think that's the charm of just being used yourself. And then sometimes the audience give you more like freedom to be who you are on the stage, even though you're actually bored of them. So they're like, okay.
Is that you on stage, or is it sort of an exaggerated version of you?
You mean on the stage?
Yeah, when you're performing, as a stand-up comedian, some stand-ups will say that it's almost like an alternate version of themselves or a
Oh.
different version of themselves, or like Larry David used to describe his writing for or his work on Curb Your Enthusiasm as being uh, who he really is if he had no social graces and no boundaries.
Mm,
That's it's sort of like this exaggerated idea of who he is, and I'm wondering if that's the same for you as well.
I think so. Yeah, it's always like a part of you exaggerated on the stage. Like because that's also for performance convenience because if you have too many sides of you on the stage, the audience will get confused.
Mm.
So just one part of me exaggerated. I think my off stage is pretty normal. Yeah, it's just like a normal human being, low key. I think one of the comedian said one of the show I did, the organizer used low key unhinged to describe me. I think a lot of comedians say that this is the perfect description of you, like low key unhinged. Um, yes, I think that's pretty much me off stage, but I'm also like reasonable with sometimes throwing tantrums around. Yeah,
Mm.
like a
And
kid.
you did, and I also want to bring up as well because you talked about your mom and your closer relationship that you have with her. Um, is, is this sort of also what you've seen with your father, or do you have a different relationship with your father?
Chinese father, we don't talk that much. Yeah, that's how Chinese father works. They just like, if you need money, you ask for from him, and then that's it. And my dad is very, you know, when I was back in home this year, I was checking all the people's Chinese bazi, like fortune telling. So I was like using the app. So when I was doing my dad's, and I'm like, Dad, your bazi says you are born to be a monk. And he is. He's like very self-absorbed. And then he's frustrated about his career move, but he's about to retire next year. And I'm like, okay, this is like, he's very philosophic. He's very like, has a lot of sympathy for the world. But it's like, if you don't make peace with yourself in the secular world, you should join the monk. He's like that. So my dad is really like that. He's like, oh, I'm just looking at everything above you guys. But he's also very generous. If you ask money, he will give it to you. Yeah.
You took your mom traveling a bit. Would you do the same with your father or both your parents together?
Yeah. But my dad can't go because he's not retired. My mom retired. I think he's
Hmm.
doing a show next year in China, if possible. I think both of them can come. But then he really wants to watch my comedy. I'm like, it's not, it's really awkward because I talk about like sex and dating. And then they're Chinese parents, they're so conservative. It's like, no, it's like, it's really hard for me to have them, in the show. But they really want to watch the show and they asked me to translate for them. I was like, "Ugh." It's like, it's the same kind of, I didn't ask for your job description and what do you do every day? But they're just,
Hmm.
especially my dad, he's so curious. He just wants to see all my stand-ups. I'm like, no.
Is that maybe you describe him sort of as being really reserved? Is that his way of showing pride in you?
Yeah, I think he's proud of me. He wear my tote bag, not be kind. It says Yummy, to his classmates reunion party. He was so funny. Yeah, he was like he's very generous and I think one of the reason I get to study overseas is and also do all the stuff. It's because of him. He's very he let me do like he's to make a final decision on financial in our family.
Hmm.
So they were like, okay. Yeah, you can go study in the US. Yeah, they have to sponsor me. So
And then I think I just kind of want to wrap it up by asking you. You said also that you might do a show in China. You know, what kind of show are you talking about? Would that be a big theater show, or what would a performance in China be like for you?
Because I did a couple gigs, two gigs back home this year.
Hmm.
I think I really enjoyed it. I can go in depth for some of the cultural and then family topics where Chinese people get it. Chinese people study overseas get it. And I really enjoy that. And I can mix Chinese with English, and that's really fun. So when I do it, I don't think it's gonna be theater. It's gonna be comedy clubs in Shanghai and Beijing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then my majority fans are women, so I feel extremely happy about it. Like, when we come to my
Yeah,
show, it almost feels like a conference for women empowerment.
a gender studies conference.
Yes, yes. I had a chance I really wanted to study gender difference when I first applied for college, but
Hmm.
I didn't go because that's not a really famous college in China, but still in Beijing. Then one of the professor there is called Li Yinghe, just really famous Chinese literature giant and also gender study, pioneers. But I didn't do.
Hmm.
I can't imagine what if I had chosen that, field of study. That would be actually cool.
All right. Well, you've done so much. What's on the horizon for you in the coming months and in the year ahead? Aside from the show in China, what else can we expect to see from you?
Um, I'll show you if you're in Australia, doing a solo show again next year.
Hmm.
I think it's dark, dirty jokes, and you know, I wanted to name it sex, politics, and everything else cultural, and solo show. And this year I will be in Australia, and possibly I'm gonna vacation in Thailand. If I have time and energy, I'll do some show in Thailand.
Mm.
Um, the rest of is like some just gigs in Melbourne, Sydney, and take some TV game shows, and that's it.
So, where can people find out what you're up to? Do you is this do you guide people to Instagram, TikTok? Where do you put people?
Yeah, Instagram, He Huang
Okay,
comedy. Yeah,
He Huang comedy on Instagram. Thank you so much for taking all this time and joining us today. And I hope you come back to Amsterdam or
I
come
will.
to Amsterdam, I should say, and
I
sit
will.
down with me in person. It would be, we have so much money laundering to talk about.
Yes, I think it'd be so fun if I actually go to Netherlands perform and we can have updated stuff about what we talk about today. And then honestly, I can't wait. Like I think now I know what's going on in Europe, so I can plan proper, bigger trip or like small to start with, or just one city, Netherlands specifically, just Netherlands.
Yeah. So Amsterdam first, and then everywhere else after that. We would
Yeah,
love to see you. So, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, and thank you for taking all the time out of your day to spend with me. It's very nice of you.
thank you so much for having me, and also everyone else. Thank you.
Damn Yankee is produced in partnership with NL Times, the top choice for English language news from the Netherlands. Founded nearly 15 years ago, NL Times is now the #1 site for information about this country, featuring more news stories every day of the week than any other website. Keep tabs on the latest top stories, features, and breaking news from across the entire country, including the three big cities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague. So visit nltimes.nl now and find out what millions of people are reading about the Netherlands. Damn Yankee is an NL Times podcast. The show was created by me and Peach Rizzo, and this episode was produced and edited by Marcus Engel.